Do you really like programming? Be honest, I'm not going to judge. It's a thing I think about a lot. I know I'm one of those lucky ones who genuinely loves the field. I was surprised at a young age because I didn't think of myself much as a computer person, certainly not as a programmer. But the more I did it, the more I felt like I could control the computer and make anything happen, the more I fell in love. And I'm curious how many developers feel that same way. More and more, I've been seeing people pushing back on the idea that developers should love their jobs, and specifically making fun of those who do. And I don't think that's fair. My whole career, I've went out of my way to acknowledge the difference between developers who spend all their hours outside of work deeply digging into topics and developers who kind of just clock out after their 8-hour day. Both can be incredible developers and bring a ton of unique value to a team, but there is a difference between them. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and not shame someone for being on the other side of that fence. For a lot of people, programming is just a job. And I'll be honest, I kind of struggle to relate with those people. It's nothing against them. It's just that I'm here because I love it. I genuinely enjoy sitting here talking about software for hours a day. And as soon as the stream's done, I'm going to go hop in a Twitter space and do the same because this is what gets me up. I genuinely enjoy it. And again, I didn't think I would. What it took was projects I was excited about. When I had things I could build and software could unlock things I wanted, for me, it was a Minecraft server. Suddenly, code's ability to unlock infinite potential became impossible to ignore. And I went from spending my days after work skateboarding, trying to do new tricks for the first time, to coding and trying to build things for the first time. It changed my approach to honestly everything. And it's a huge part of how I ended up where I'm at now. The difference in me from before I really enjoyed programming, where it was just a thing I did for class credit, to when I saw what it could unlock for me and started to genuinely really love it. The difference is so stark that I hope anyone who can make that transition does, because this stuff can be so fun and exciting. But again, I don't think every engineer needs to be, because there's a lot of code that isn't fun to write. There's a lot of code that needs to be maintained that no one wants to touch. There are still thousands of companies shipping COBOL. And for people who programming is just a job, the difference between a fun JavaScript stack and an ancient rotting COBOL stack, it's the quality of the styles and the documentation they're reading. And that's honestly awesome. In some ways, it's a superpower, being able to look at all of these different technologies and just see them as burdens rather than exciting opportunities. Because now you can take money and convert that money effectively into maintenance for things that other people might not want to touch. And crazy enough, some of the most talented developers I've met fit under this. There are people who just naturally get how computers work. Like, the lines of code just click for them. They can learn a new language in minutes. And sometimes those people don't actually enjoy it much. It's just a thing they figured out they had, and they're doing the code thing because they know it makes money. And those end up becoming some of the most valuable people on your teams because they're willing to do almost anything. And if you're in a leadership position, it's really important to acknowledge these two types of developers. And if you have both on your team, make sure they're working on the things that are the most effective for their way of thinking. If you have a new library you want to introduce to your code base, maybe give that to one of the young guys who's really hyped to code every day. And if you have to maintain or rewrite the unit test for this old thing because the package got updated, give that to one of the people who doesn't care as much. The amount they care doesn't determine how good of an engineer they are, just determines what motivates them and where their strengths are. And if you're building anything of value, then both of those types of engineers are going to be uniquely useful at different points in your products and companies' journeys. There is so much value to be had, both from a developer who passionately cares about code and wants to learn new things every day, just like there is from somebody who learned everything they wanted to 10 years ago and just wants to write the code and go home back to their family and their dog. There is no shame here. I just wanted to point out that there's a difference here, and it kind of sucks when one side makes fun of the other. Both are incredibly essential to the success of any real projects and businesses. Just be cognizant of which side you're on. Generally speaking, anybody watching these videos and hanging out in this community is going to lean far into the learning things for fun side. Like, if you're here and you're not sure which side you're on the learning things for fun side. That's why you're hanging out in the YouTube video. That's why you're hanging out on Twitch chat, wherever the hell you're at. Don't shame those who aren't like us. Understand that there's a difference, and understand we all bring value to the table. If someone's not actually bringing anything of value, obviously don't bother. Obviously, if somebody's not bringing much value, this doesn't apply. But if somebody's the only reason your old code base is working, it doesn't matter that they don't want to go learn the new server component stuff or play with Svelte on the weekend. They're still a great engineer. If you want to hear more about my takes on what makes engineers, in particular engineering managers, great, I have a video all about that there for you to check out. Thank you as always. Peace.